Go back, way back, before the cheese. We started as goo, just soup. Hot, salty soup floating around, bumping into other soup. No responsibilities, no email, just divide, replicate, vibe. Honestly, the peak of existence. But then, for some reason, the soup decided it wanted legs. Why? Why did we leave the ocean? The ocean is great, you just float. But no, some ambitious fish with a complex thought, I bet the air is better. Spoiler alert, the air is full of taxes and pollen. So we crawl onto land, right? And for about 2 million years, we're just scared. That's the entirety of human history up until about 10 minutes ago. Just abject terror. We weren't the apex predators back then. We were the chicken nuggets of the Pleistocene. You think you have anxiety? You don't have anxiety. You have a cortisol spike because your boss used a period instead of an exclamation point in a Slack message. Paleo Dave, the guy living in a cave 40,000 years ago, he had anxiety. He had to listen to the wind to make sure a saber-toothed tiger wasn't about to turn his family into a charcuterie board.
This is why we can't sleep, by the way. You lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if you locked the front door. That's not you being neurotic. That's your great-great-great-grandfather Og whispering in your DNA, hey buddy, the fire went out. Something is definitely going to eat us. So we discovered fire, which was huge. Fire was the first iPhone. It was the thing everyone gathered around to stare at. It changed the game. Before fire, night was just the time we die. After fire, night was the time we tell stories about how we almost died. That's where culture starts, right there. Sitting around a burning pile of sticks, eating something slightly less raw than usual, and lying. Storytelling is just lying with structure. The bear was this big. No, it wasn't, Keith. It was a badger. But the lie brings us together. And for a long time, that was it. We were nomads, hunter-gatherers. And frankly, the data suggests this was our best life. Think about it. You worked maybe 15 hours a week. You woke up, you found a berry, you chased a rabbit, you took a nap. No mortgage, no meaningless small talk about the weather. If you didn't like the neighbors, you just walked away. You literally moved your house. I can't stand Steve. Let's migrate. Done. Then we made the mistake, the agricultural revolution. We planted wheat. And look, I like bread. I really do. A nice sourdough? Incredible. But was it worth 10,000 years of serfdom? Because that's the trade. Historians call it civilization. I call it the trap. The second a human being put a fence around a piece of dirt and said, this is mine, the world ended. Because once you have a field, you have to defend the field. You have to water the field. You have to worry about the field. And worse, you can't leave. Now you're stuck with Steve. You can't migrate. You have crops. So now you have to build a wall to keep people away from your crops. Then you need guys to stand on the wall. Well, the guys on the wall need to eat, but they're too busy standing on the wall to farm. So you, the farmer, have to give them some of your wheat. Boom, taxes. And since the guys on the wall have spears and you just have a hoe, boom, government. It spiraled out of control so fast. Suddenly we have kings. Why? Because some guy said, the big invisible sky dad talks to me and he says you have to give me your goats. And everyone was so tired from farming, they just said, okay, sure, whatever, just don't kill me. Let's talk about the ancients. Egypt, Mesopotamia, the cradles of civilization. We look at the pyramids and we go, wow, such majesty, such engineering. You know what I see? I see the world's biggest midlife crisis. The pyramids are just a billionaire buying a super yacht but made of stone. It's a giant triangle-shaped tomb because one guy was so terrified of being forgotten that he bankrupted an entire economy to stack rocks. I bought a leather jacket 3 years ago. It was too expensive. It smells like a cow that smoked cigarettes. I bought it because I wanted to look like a guy who rides a motorcycle. Pharaoh Khufu built the Great Pyramid. I bought a leather jacket. Same psychological defect. Then you get the Greeks. I love the Greeks because they were the first people to realize that life is essentially a bummer, so we might as well drink wine and argue about it. They invented democracy, which is great, except they also invented the filibuster and the concept of the vibe check.
Philosophy was just guys with no jobs hanging out in the town square roasting people. Socrates? Socrates was the original internet troll. He just walked around Athens going, "Actually, do you even know what justice is? Because I don't think you do." And he did it until they literally fed him poison. That's the ultimate cancel culture. Then the Romans. The Romans were like the Greeks, but with better engineers and way more aggression. They were the frat bros of history. They built roads, sure, aqueducts, concrete that we still can't replicate. But they were also insane. They watched people fight lions for entertainment. We think we're civilized, but if HBO broadcast a live feed of a gladiator match, the ratings would be astronomical. You know it, I know it. We haven't changed, we just outsourced the violence to football and Twitter. The Romans collapsed, obviously, because you can only party that hard for so long before the hangover hits, and boy did it hit. Enter the Middle Ages. For a solid 1,000 years, humanity just kind of sat in the wet. It's hard to romanticize this period, though Game of Thrones tries. It wasn't sexy, it was itchy. Everyone had fleas, everyone smelled like a wet dog. The life expectancy was maybe. If you got a cut on your finger in 1340, you died. You cut your finger slicing a turnip, and the village doctor would come in, who was also the barber, by the way, and say, "Well, looks like ghosts are in your blood. We have to drain all of it." But I need my blood. Not with those ghosts, you don't. And the church. The church had the best racket in town. Life sucks right now, yes. You live in a hut made of dung, but if you give us 10% of your turnips, when you die, you get to go to a cloud palace. It was the ultimate subscription service. Netflix for the soul, but if you unsubscribe, you burn for eternity. Then, the Black Death. I know, too soon? It killed half of Europe. Half! Imagine your Facebook friends list. Delete every other person. That's the 14th century. But, and here's the dark, twisted irony of human history, it was actually great for the survivors. Suddenly, labor was scarce. If you were a peasant who didn't die of the bubonic plague, you could walk up to the lord of the manor and say, "Hey, I want a raise," or "I'm walking." And the lord had to say yes, because everyone else was dead. This kicked off the Renaissance. Suddenly, we started caring about things again. Art, perspective, science. We figured out that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, which honestly was a huge blow to the ego. We really liked being the main character. Copernicus came along and said, "Actually, you're just a speck of dust orbiting a giant fireball." Thanks, Nick. I really needed that existential dread. But the real game changer, the printing press. Gutenberg, 1440.
Before this, if you wanted to know something, you had to ask a priest or just guess. After the printing press, information could travel. It was the first information age. And just like our information age, it immediately caused wars. Because suddenly, people could read the Bible themselves and go, "Wait a minute, it doesn't say anything here about giving the Pope my turnips." Chaos, the Reformation, 100 years of people shooting each other over grammar. Fast forward, the Industrial Revolution. Okay, look, this is where it gets real. Before 1750, time was fluid. You worked when the sun was up, you slept when it was dark. Then we invented the steam engine, and with the steam engine came the factory, and with the factory came the clock.
We weren't meant to live in minutes. We were meant to live in seasons. But the factory needed synchronization, so we standardized time. We invented the concept of being late. We built cities that were choked with coal smoke. London in 1880 wasn't Mary Poppins, it was a dystopian lung cancer ward. We treated children like spare parts. "Oh, little Timmy fits inside the chimney? Get in there, Timmy." And there is always a but. We also got stuff. Cheap cloth, iron, trains. The train changed the psychology of distance. Before trains, far away meant you will never see that place. After trains, far away meant 3 days of sitting on a wooden bench. We started moving faster. We started wanting more. The 20th century. Oh boy, the century where we got really, really good at machines and really, really bad at ethics. We figured out how to fly. We literally looked at birds and said, "I can do that." And within 60 years of the first flight, we walked on the moon. But we also mechanized death. World War I, World War II. We took the efficiency of the factory and applied it to killing. And then the nuclear bomb. The ultimate hold my beer moment of human civilization.
We unlocked the power of the sun and immediately turned it into a weapon. And that brings us to the Cold War. 40 years of sitting in a bunker waiting for the world to end. And finally, the modern era, the digital age. Us, right here. We are the culmination of all that struggle. The ice ages, the plagues, the wars, the revolutions. It all led to this.